Hall of Fame class panel. Here's the Hall of Fame class panel before you. A lot of things going on there this weekend. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce right now, it's my pleasure to introduce the Sports Information Director Emeritus from the University of Iowa, Mr. Phil Hattie.
Thank you, Rex. Well, this is the first FRYfest in a couple years. We've gone through a lot in the last year and a half or two. We're still going through the COVID, so let's, the first thing I'll say is God bless all of you that are here, and everybody please stay healthy. That's the first and foremost thing we want to say to everybody. And it's the first, as he maybe mentioned, FRYfest without Hayden Fry around. So we miss him, and this is, I'd say, about 99% because of him. This is obviously the largest Hall of Fame class since we had our inaugural Hall of Fame class way back in the 1990s. So, and that's because of COVID. There was no induction or Hall of Fame class last year. So we're going to introduce them one at a time. There's 10 here that we have, and we're going to, when I mention the name, I'm going to have you stand so they know they obviously can tell which one with the name here, but we're going to have them stand as we read a little bit of their biography. The Hall of Fame class of 2021 for the University of Iowa. First of all, Dan Bachman. Dan Bachman, Iowa, men's gymnastics, 1982 through 1986. Dan was a 3-time All-American, a 7-time Big Ten champion. He led Iowa to the 1986 Big Ten title. He won the gold in the all-around floor exercise parallel bars. He was an All-American in each of those 3 events in 1986. He won 4 conference titles in the floor exercise and earned a gold medal in vault as a freshman in 1983. Hall of Famer Dan Bachman. Kari Hamel, Hawkeye Volleyball, 1985 through 89. Carrie led Iowa to its first ever NCAA championships appearance in 1989 and was named to the Big Ten 1980s All-Decade team in 1992. She was a first-team All-Big Ten honoree in 1988 and 89 and earned All-Conference honorable mention in 1987. She graduated as the school's all-time leader in blocks and kills, and her 37 kills against Indiana in 1988 tied the single-match school record. She ranked second all-time with 477 blocks and third all-time with 1,676 kills, and is in the all-time top 10 in career service aces and digs. Kari Hamel, Hall of Famer. Christy Hanks, Iowa softball, 1999 through 2002. Christy was a 2-time All-American from 2000 to 2001, earning first-team honors in 2001 while leading Iowa to the College World Series. She was named Big Ten Pitcher of the Year in 2001, her second consecutive honor with that award, and was a first-team All-Big Ten honoree in 2000 and 2001, a second-team honoree in 2002. Hanks earned all-region honors in 2000 and 2002 and graduated in 2002 as the program's all-time leader in strikeouts. Her 98 career wins is one shy of the school record. Hall of Famer Christy Hanks. Representing Frank Kinney Holbrook, football, 1985 to 1997. Quinn Early is representing Frank. I'm sure you'll understand that we have no teammates of Frank around since he played in 1895 through 1897. Frank Kinney Holbrook was the first black athlete to compete for the University of Iowa and the first black college athlete in the history of the state of Iowa. He was a football letter winner in 1895 and 1896 and a track and field letter winner in 1896 and 97. He led the Hawkeye football team with 12 touchdowns in 1896, scoring 4 rushing touchdowns in a 32-0 win over Drake in their season opener. His touchdown against Missouri in 1896 helped Iowa clinch a share of the Western Interstate University Football Championship, the first conference title in school history. We honor Frank Kinney Holbrook, Hall of Famer in football. Kristen Holmes, field hockey, 1992. At least we moved up a century. So in 1992 to 1996, Kristen was a 2-time first-team All-American and a 4-time All-Big Ten honoree. She was named the Big Ten's most valuable player in 1996, helping Iowa win its second straight Big Ten regular season championship, and they advanced to its second straight NCAA Elite Eight. Holmes was a member of the 1993 and 94 Final Four teams and earned all-region honors in 1993, 94, and 96. I almost forgot a couple years there. She was an alternate on the 1996 United States Olympic team and a member of the U.S. national team from 1995 through 1998, and again in 2000 and 2005. Holmes was a member of the United States World Cup team in 1998. Hall of Famer in field hockey, Kristen Holmes. Representing for Iowa basketball, Hall of Famer Roy Marble, his brother, Jeron. Roy Marble, 1986-1989. Roy Marble Jr. was a 3-time All-Big Ten honoree and ranks second in program history and career points, scoring 2,116 from 1986 through 1989. He's one of 27 players in Big Ten history to score more than 2,000 career points, and he ranks 10th in conference history and career free throws. He Marble ranks second all-time at Iowa in points, field goals, and field goal attempts, and he ranks in the top 10 in career steals, free throw attempts, and games played. He left Iowa as its all-time leading scorer and was selected in the first round of the 1989 NBA draft by the Atlanta Hawks. Hall of Famer Roy Marble Jr. Representing administration, and if I may go a little further, Iowa baseball, Fred Mims. Fred Mims was a University of Iowa athletics administrator for 38 years, leading Iowa student services and compliance departments for more than 2 decades. Mims joined the Iowa athletic department staff in 1977 and held the title of Associate Athletic Director for 25 years before retiring in 2015. Prior to joining the Hawkeye staff, Mims was a 2-sport letter winner in both basketball and baseball. He was a 2-time first-team All-Big Ten Conference selection in baseball, leading Iowa to a Big Ten title and College World Series berth in 1972. He was selected and played for the U.S. national team at the 1971 Pan American Games. Fred Mims, Hall of Famer. Diane Nukuri, track and field, University of Iowa, 2006, 2008. Diane was a 3-time All-American and 2-time Big Ten champion winning the 2007 cross-country title and the 2008 track and field 5,000 meters. She was named Big Ten Cross Country Athlete of the Year in 2007 and University of Iowa Female Athlete of the Year in 2008. She set school records in 8 events and holds the Ashton course mark in the 3,000 and 4,000 meters. A 2007 Honda Sports Award finalist, she received the 2008 Wilma Rudolph Award. Nukuri competed in the 2000, 2012, and 2000 Olympic Games. Hall of Famer Diane Nukuri. Iowa Wrestling, Brad the Flea Penrith. Brad Penrith won the 126th NCAA championship in 1986, leading Iowa to a record-tying 9th straight team title. Penrith was a 3-time All-American and 3-time Big Ten champion, winning honors and titles from 1986 to 1988. He was named the Big Ten Wrestler of the Year 1986 and made 2 United States World Championship teams, winning a world silver medal in 1991. Hall of Famer Brad Penrith. In football and broadcasting, Hall of Famer Ed Podolak. Ed Podolak was named a first-team All-Big Ten and team MVP in 1968. He ranks in the top 20 in school history and career rushing yards, passing yards, and total offense. In 1968, he set a then school and Big Ten record, rushing for a record 286 yards on 17 attempts against Northwestern. He was selected in the second round of the 1969 NFL Draft by the Kansas City Chiefs and won a Super Bowl in 1970 with the Chiefs. Podolak is a member of the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Honor and the University of Iowa Media Hall of Fame. He's been a radio commentator for Hawkeye football since 1982. Hall of Famer Ed Podolak. That is a great Hall of Fame class, and could I have you, before they speak a little bit, one more round of applause for the 2021 Hall of Fame class for the University of Iowa. So we're going to just go down the line. We're going to give each of these, I'm going to still call them young athletes, a chance to give us their impressions of the University of Iowa, their favorite impressions, maybe of their coach, whatever, something they'd like to talk about, and also maybe tell us what you're doing now. If you have a family, kids, maybe in some kids, grandkids, well, we can talk about that, but we'll just hop around, but we'll start with Dan Bachman, our Gymnastics Hall of Famer. Dan, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this time. Phil, thank you for your help here. My biggest memory being here at the University of Iowa, number one and most important, is meeting my wife. So, yeah. My second most is, yes, being a teammate here at the university with all my teammates, many great memories. The one thing I do remember is there was a competition where we were going against Ohio State, one of the top-ranked teams in the country, and my coach, Tom Dunn, challenged us to score 280 points. And you never challenge an athlete because they're going to rise to that level and try to do whatever that challenge is. And his challenge was, if we accomplish this, Tom, in his 40s, I think it was mid-40s at that time, said he would actually get out and compete at the next year's Wisconsin Open Championship. Now, in gymnastics, once you're done, you are done, because your body tightens up, it's not flexible, it's not strong. So Tom trained secret. Of course, we scored 280. Not only did we do that, we beat Ohio State in their gym. So we showed Tom he had to follow through on the challenge. So secretly, he trained without our knowledge to prepare for this competition. We have videos. Those videos has since disappeared. We do not know where they're at. Otherwise, we'd bring them out. But yeah, great times, great teammates. I loved my time at Iowa City, and I'm very thankful to be here.
Now, I have to ask you, did Tom Dunn show a lot of excitement after that victory?
Yes, he did. Like a nervous kind of excitement, because he knew what he had to do.
Tom Dunn, our coach, and absolutely wonderful person, but he was always very, very relaxed. You know, he never really showed much emotion, but maybe he did behind the curtains.
Yes.
We're going to bounce around a little bit. Next, I'm going to call Ed Podolak. So we'll need here. I'll just use this mic right here. We'll take it down to now with Ed Podolak. We talked about him having that rushing record, and I think the one thing he'll want to tell you is how long that record lasted in the Big Ten.
1 week.
The record for rushing started, and it was for like a 20-year-old record.
I think it was Red Grange's record. It was 30 years old or something.
Red Grange or somebody. Eddie sets the new record, and it was broken 1 week later. But Eddie, go ahead.
I have the record for the shortest record in the Big Ten. I came to Iowa. I wanted to come to Iowa. I knew that's where I wanted to play. I grew up in Atlantic, Iowa. And then in January of my senior year, Iowa State came and hired my high school football coach and made him the quarterback coach at Iowa State. So that was a tough one. I didn't want to go to Iowa State, but he was like a second father to me, and it was a tough day. When sitting in my mother's kitchen in the morning was my high school coach trying to get me to sign to go to Iowa State, and fortunately Andy Pirro's father, Whitey Pirro, was sitting there also, and I had to sign for Iowa in front of my high school coach. So that was probably a lot of pressure for a kid of 17 years old, but I'm sure glad I made the right decision. Otherwise, I'd be a clone.
Eddie, tell us a little bit about you were a player at a very turbulent time in Iowa football from an administration and coaching standpoint. How it was as a player with that?
Well, it was tough because Jerry Burns, who recruited us all, and they had been preseason ranked #1 in the country that year. I think they only won 2 games or 3 games, and freshmen couldn't participate then. We couldn't even practice with the varsity. We had to have our own practices. And so he got fired, and they brought in Ray Nagel, who was a terrific guy, but half of my class that had come in as recruits transferred. So we were down to 13 players, known as the hardcore. It was back during the Vietnam War type of stuff. So we had a couple years that were pretty, we didn't win many games, let's put it that way. And then our third year, we came up and vied for the Big Ten, didn't win it, but it was tumultuous times, as you might say. But I went from there to the Kansas City Chiefs and won the Super Bowl the first year, so I kind of forgot about the other stuff.
That's good. And Eddie has turned into one of the foremost color men in college football today. Now, next we're going to bring up this person. I mean, I can barely go to the back of the room without running out of breath. But Diane Nukuri, I mean, we're talking about elite of the elite as far as women in track and cross country. So Diane, and this wasn't a 1, 2, 3 year deal. Your talents lasted, I don't know, about 15, 20 years, and maybe you're still doing it. I don't know. And congratulations, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to say my favorite part of being at the University of Iowa was, one, graduating and getting a degree, because I never even dreamed of that. And of course, I know that running is my thing, and I have the talent, but I know that I had to work really hard being here at the University of Iowa, and it wasn't just about running fast, it was also passing my classes and be able to graduate and get a degree. So, I loved being part of the team. Just having the teammates that are also still friends, I'm still friends with today, and my coach, and just the whole athletic department just believing in me and supporting me. And I'm still running, and I'm actually a professional runner, and I've been running for 20 plus years, so.
Now, for all of you, tell us, if you have a family now, or what you're doing right now.
I don't have any kids, but I do. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and my full-time job is still running. So just traveling and, just competing.
That's why no kids. You keep running the whole time.
No.
and congratulations. You're still one of the elite runners in history. So good for you. Next, we're going to go to Christy Hanks softball, and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and some of your favorite memories of Iowa.
Well, hello. Is this working? Is it on? Yeah. Oh, I got to use my teacher voice. So I'm currently a 5th grade teacher, so I'm used to talking in front of 10 and 11-year-olds. It's been a while since I've talked in front of adults, so bear with me. I've had a lot of fond memories with softball. Some just, honestly, one of my biggest memories was actually traveling here with my dad, that 16-hour drive from Texas, and talking about, we're going to look past this and 20 years down the road, and we're still going to be, wishing we were back in college, and it's very true. But just my experience with Gail Blevins and the girls on the team has just taught me a lot more than just softball. Taught me about life and how to live life, I guess you could say. But sport-wise, I guess the most fondest would be going to the World Series. We were the underdog at regionals. They expected Notre Dame to win, and that didn't happen. So just being able to go to the big dance was a great experience. And like I said, just hanging out with the girls and having fun on our bus trips is also another one. And we still have inside jokes that we still talk about today. So.
You had, in fact, I want to remind everybody, we've got 3 more panel discussions later in the day. The first one is going to be, we're going to rehash and go over the unbelievable careers of Bump Elliott and Christine Grant, and how lucky we were to have those. That's at 1 o'clock, and then we're going to talk a little bit later about Hayden Fry at a 2 o'clock panel, and at 3 o'clock we're going to bring some sports writers on that are going to reflect on their favorite memories of Hayden Fry. So be sure and be with us there. And part of one of the panels, and that's why I wanted to mention it, is you played for one of what I consider one of the greatest coaches in college softball history. Not what she still is, in my opinion, Gail Blevins, and she's going to be a part of one of our panels later today. So I hope you get to hear that, but tell us how it was playing for Gail.
It was awesome.
Hopefully you were one of the players that really liked her.
Like I said, I did. And I love Coach. She taught me a lot. I mean, she saw something in me that I didn't see, but she also taught me how to grow and become a better teammate, because I'm not going to lie, being a pitcher, when I walked in, I was a pitcher, I was selfish. And so she had to teach me that it's not about me, it's about the team. And so, and about life. And even to this day, one of her biggest things was circle of control. What can you control? You can control yourself. And I still live by that. I even say it to my children and at school right now. It sticks with you. those words of wisdom from her, because she is probably one of the best softball coaches.
And I think she's still a better
Yeah.
golfer than me.
Yes.
So, but probably you all are. But next I'd like to talk about, and he may talk a little bit longer, Quinn Early, to talk about Frank Kinney Holbrook. He's, I think, doing a documentary, writing a book, or whatever, on Frank, who played football here, as we said, in the late 1890s. So Quinn Early, who played for the Hawkeyes, obviously, he may be on the stage as a Hall of Famer himself someday as a Hawkeye receiver. But Quinn Early, tell us a little bit more about Frank, because none of us were around back then.
Right. Thanks, Phil. So, first of all, I'm extremely humbled and honored to be able to represent Frank Kinney Holbrook at this ceremony. I work in Hollywood, and I was contacted by a producer. They were going to make a movie about Niall Kinnick, who everyone knows. He was the first and only Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Iowa. And I was extremely interested. When I got off the phone with him, I started doing my own research, and I came across this old football picture, and having no idea what it was, I noticed that there was a black kid in the picture, and I clicked on it, and it was the 1895 Iowa Hawkeyes, and in the picture was Frank Kinney Holbrook. And it was almost like I was meant to find this picture. I started asking people if they had ever heard of him, and most people hadn't. And as I started to do research, I found out what an incredible life and story this young man had. His father was a runaway slave, ran from his captors when he was 12 and into the safety of the Union Army. He was rescued by a gentleman named Captain Lloyd Dillon. He valeted for Lloyd Dillon during the war, and after the war, Lloyd Dillon brought him back to his hometown of Iowa City. When the young man, whose name was James, grew up, he moved to Tipton, Iowa, had a family, and Frank Kinney Holbrook was his son. He was a sports athlete, sports star at Tipton High School, the Tipton Tigers, and he ended up coming to the University of Iowa. What's interesting is that the family couldn't afford to send him to the University of Iowa, and the townspeople of Tipton rallied around the Holbrooks and raised enough money so that he could come to the university, which back then is a pretty amazing story. And as Phil mentioned earlier, he was a two-sport athlete at Iowa, ran track, played football. In 1895, they had him playing end, which back then they didn't throw the football, so he was primarily a blocker. They didn't have a coach. They had to raise money just to even keep the football program going, and they weren't very good. They won 2 games, I think, that year. The following year, they hired a coach. The first thing the coach did, a gentleman named Alfred E. Bull, they moved Kinney to running back, and the rest is history. They won their first conference title ever, and I think that it's long overdue that this young man is now in the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty excited about it. And what I did was I actually did a documentary on his life, which will actually premiere tomorrow. And then we're actually having a fundraiser in Tipton on Sunday for Frank Kinney Holbrook. And 100% of those proceeds I'm giving to the people of Tipton so that they can build a monument of Frank Kinney Holbrook there. And well-deserved. And I'm extremely humbled to be a part of it. And real quick, this isn't about me, but one of my favorite Hawkeye stories is watching Phil Hattie in a dead sprint when we would kick a game-winning field goal down the field through those goal posts. I still to this day, whenever I see that, it just brings a huge smile to my face. So thank you for that, Phil.
Now, thank you. I want to ask you one thing. I mean, we're talking 125 years ago. How did you find out all this information about Frank?
So, and that's a good question. So the first thing I did was I started just doing research on people who might have researched Frank Kinney Holbrook, and I got in touch with a gentleman named Neil Rosendahl, who has done many amazing books and articles on various Hawkeyes through history, not just in football, but in athletic history. he was an extremely great source and is part of my documentary. Mike Boyle, who is the curator at the Cedar County Historical Society, which is located in Tipton. He helped me out. Pamela Nosek, another historian here at Iowa. So I just had and there's a few others, I don't want to take up too much time, but just a lot of great resources. And the Iowa football program, Coach Ferentz, Ben Hansen, everybody at the Iowa football program, they've been extremely helpful, in providing resources and helping me with this documentary. So it's just been a great team effort, and I'm very proud of it. And again, I'm very humbled just to be here to represent.
Frank would be very proud of you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Kari Hamel, volleyball, and tell us a little bit about your life and what your favorite memories are of the Iowa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kari Hamel from Dubuque, Iowa. I'm a first-generation college graduate, and one of my fondest memories was my recruiting trip. And dinner with my parents was with Dr. Christine Grant, one of the deans of the colleges. And there was that fork moment where you put down your fork. I knew it was going to be interesting. And Dr. Grant turned to my parents and said, I don't know if your daughter will ever play, but she will get as much education as she wants. And so I am a 4-time graduate of the University of Iowa. I hold 2 undergraduate degrees and 2 graduate degrees. I'm delighted to be on this panel, and what an opportunity to thank Fred Mims in the administration. To be a student athlete here is so very special. If anybody has some research in later to do tonight, I want to give some shout out to some of my professors. I was influenced, and professors who I have called upon in my life experiences in the last 2 months. That would be Professor Brooks Landon, Professor Carolyn Dyer, Professor Mark Linder, Professor Arthur Bonfield, and Professor Al Talbot. And to lift up what Dan mentioned, I hope I could get a serve over the net at this point in my life, but it's certainly not something I'm doing a lot with, but my brain is something. So to be a student athlete at the University of Iowa was so very special. So thanks. Go Hawks.
Now, nobody's saying much about it, but when we're all done here with everybody talking for the first time, I'm going to go down and have everybody say exactly what they're doing now, and if you have a family, and where you're living now. So I don't think hardly anybody's in Iowa City, but some of you maybe. Next we'll go, you mentioned him, we'll go to Fred Mims, Hawkeye administrator and Hawkeye baseball player, and Fred has been around for a long time with the Hawkeye athletic department. He, like myself, is a Hawkeye for life. Fred?
Thank you, Phil. Is this on? Yeah. What Phil didn't tell you, I started everything when I was 10 years old, so keep that in mind. No, being a part of the University of Iowa family has been tremendous joy for me and my family. I came to Iowa as a baseball and basketball player, and I did quite well as an athlete. One of the most memorable experiences I had as an athlete was hitting 2 home runs to win the Big Ten title against Northwestern, and also being a part of a team that went to the College World Series. The only team in Iowa history to ever go to the College World Series was our 1972 team. Great friendships. More importantly, what I remember the most is the friendship and support that I received from Central Administration, every president I worked for, from our coaches and athletic department administration, supporting me to build a culture at the University of Iowa, that's sustaining culture that helps our student athlete. When I was a student athlete, we didn't have much support. And I noticed those things as an undergraduate. I noticed all the things that could be improved upon. And one of the things they used to do when I was a student athlete, you needed a tutor or somebody to help you. They give you a slip and say, go find your tutor and get some help. And what guys were doing, they were taking that slip, going to a friend, put in bill for so many hours. They wasn't getting tutoring, but they're getting the money and splitting it. And so I saw that as a student athlete, and I said, changes need to happen. We need to really have support services for our student athlete. And so I worked very hard with central administration, with our coaches and athletic administration to develop a support program that was a model that people around the country wanted to have one like that. And from that beginning, I also served on many committees within the Big Ten Conference and the NCAA. I was an NCAA peer reviewer. Did programs like Florida, Oklahoma, Stanford, and met a lot of people there, but also saw what they had in place, and I was able to bring some of the good things they were doing back to Iowa, and we benefited from it. Wouldn't have done all that if I didn't care about the student athletes that we served, and a lot of those individuals have gone on and done some great things. We established a slogan, today's Hawkeyes are tomorrow's leader, and all the programs and services we put in place was for that cause, to help our student athletes become leaders. And so that's my story for now.
And Fred was brought on board by, as we said, we're going to have a panel later on by Bump Elliott. And this is no criticism in any way of what we've had since, but with Bump Elliott and Christine Grant, the mold was broken with those two. Right there. We worked for the best, and it was a golden era in Hawkeye athletics with those two. Okay, next we're going to go to Brad Penrith, wrestling. Brad, take it away. You've been a wrestler, you've been into coaching, and I want you to tell the story, but Brad had something to do with this big bus and all the artwork that's on it right now. So tell them all about that. That's pretty darn impressive.
Well, we'll talk about the bus first. I work for Mud Advertising up in Cedar Falls, and the manager, and we control the sign department. And I was approached about doing this bus, and it took a long time, and our date kept getting cut back, so we only had we only had a very few days to do it because he kept changing the goalposts. But we got it done, and we got it down here at FRYfest, and it came out pretty solid. Fond memories for me is twofold. One would be it molded my future was some of our practices. My coach might have a screw loose, Coach Gable, with some of our workouts. Were so extremely hard that you always question yourself, why am I even here? And I remember one time, this is a memory that I remember we were running sprints upstairs in Coralville Hawkeye. And when we got done, we were down sitting in the sauna, and I turned around to Greg Randall and I go, I swear to God, I kept saying to myself, trip, so I didn't have to finish the workout. And he looked at me, he goes, you have that same thought too? Because it was so extremely hard. But it molded me in my coaching career. Diane actually stole some of my fond memories of meeting my wife. I love you dearly. Because if I didn't meet my wife, I want to have my children. Then the other fond memory is Coach Gable and Kathy Gable pulling me, helping me out in my career, because I had some highs and lows in college. I was a little wild, just a little. And thank you, Fred, for not kicking me out of school. Him and Bump Elliott and Gable formed a plan, got me back thinking right, and it's molded me, it's helped me. And I'm so grateful for the University of Iowa, being the first person in my family to get a college degree. So those are all my memories. I loved Iowa. I loved my career here, and I'm a faithful Hawk. The only sad thing right now, hopefully it becomes a positive, is my daughter. I love you to death, but she is a Cyclone now, and it hurts, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna get through it. But in the front row right here is my daughter, who I mentioned, Grace. who is a freshman at Iowa State. My middle son, Jacob, who is a junior here at the University of Iowa. My older son came to Iowa for 2.5 years, and now he's back at UNI finishing up his degree. And my wife, who graduated from Iowa, and I love you dearly. So thank you guys. It's great. It is great to be a Hawkeye.
Now, a couple things. When you're done at Iowa State, are you going to go to college? Maybe. And that coach that had a screw loose back then is, by the way, signing autographs back there, Dan Gable, and he'll be on one of our panels later today talking about Bump Elliott and a few other things. And once again, I want to say kudos to Brad Penrith, because I know personally, for doing the PA for wrestling 45 years, he had a point in his life where he reached a fork in the road and he could have taken the wrong turn. He took the right turn, and his family here is a good example of what turned out, and it could have been worse. And congratulations to what you did with yours. Roy Marble Jr., and representing Roy is his brother, Jeron. And I want to mention, Roy, you got two sisters here in the front row. So two of Roy Marble's sisters are right here in the front row. Thank you for coming, and we appreciate your attendance. And Jeron, tell us a little bit. I told you earlier, Roy would often, I think just to get away from the coaches, come into my office and said, let's talk about something. Anything, and he would just come in before practice, and maybe that allowed him to be a little late for practice or something. But a great individual that I loved being around and loved putting publicity out. You tell us a little bit about Roy.
First off, he loved Iowa. That was his main thing. He loved Iowa. Two of his kids actually graduated from Iowa, Roy Shell and Roy Devon. He should be here later on to talk to you guys as well. But one of the bigger things of him, he was a humble guy. That, it started early for him and whatnot, but never wavered from who he was. He would talk to anybody, have a conversation with anybody, would have one with him. Just a good individual that you just wouldn't have thought had all that star power, but a guy that would give his shirt off to another guy with no problem. That's the kind of guy he was.
Tell us a little bit about why Iowa. He and a few other guys from up there in Michigan, decided to say no to Michigan State and try the University of Iowa. I believe the coach was George Raveling, actually. When
correct. At that time, Roy was like probably the number 1, number 2 kid in the country, coming out of high school, and at that time it was going to be, one of the top coaches was going to get that kid. It wasn't an actual place; it was where they were, and it was. He told me it was Iowa or Georgetown. It was either going to be one of those two, and he chose Iowa. Now, with that being said, with the way Roy came in and the marketing they had behind Roy coming into college, he actually put everything on hold for the University of Iowa, because nobody thought in their right mind Roy wouldn't leave Iowa and go to USC with George Raveling to further his career. But he chose Iowa because but within that time of his freshman year, you guys showed him so much love that he couldn't waver from it. And that's what made him a Hawkeye to the day he passed away.
Now, did George try to get him to go to USC with him?
Oh, yes. Yes. Who wouldn't? That was that time was a beautiful time. I mean, at that time, Iowa was about to get the number 1 kid in the nation the following year after that. And he happened to be a Flintstone as well. And so George Barwell thought that he would get, and I pack it up, I'm gonna leave, and Roy, the young kid, was like, no, I'm not going with you. And that was a blow. It was. I mean, he spoke about it at my brother's funeral when he came. He said that was one of his regrets, leaving Iowa with that kid staying in Iowa.
And Roy was, aside from just basketball, he was an unbelievable athlete.
Oh yeah, he could play football, but they wouldn't let him do it.
I understand. It's good that we have such great representatives for the two that aren't with us anymore, and they're two people we'll remember always. All right, last but not least, field hockey. Kristen, you're up. Kristen Holmes.
Well, first of all, it's an absolute honor to be here, and I feel the benefit of kind of going last, being able to hear all these inspiring stories, and it has brought just a flood of memories. I don't know if I can really, it's hard to pick one, but I can tell you that one of the most impactful conversations I've had in my life to date, honestly, was on my recruiting trip, and I had the great privilege of being able to sit down and talk to Dr. Christine Grant, who I know we've referenced already several times, Carrie specifically. I think, in fact, she was the closer. So I think Dr. Grant was the closer. But for me, being able to sit down with a woman who I had already long admired, I don't know if you guys know, but Dr. Grant was really led the charge for gender equity and equality in women's athletics. And, I wouldn't, I see my daughter in the stand, and, the opportunities that we have as women to play sport, it's at an unprecedented level at this point. And, we get more equality each day. But I just knew at that moment that the opportunity that I had to play intercollegiate athletics was largely due to the work of Dr. Christine Grant. And it wasn't lost to me, in that moment, that I was really sitting in the presence of greatness. She's been an idol of mine my entire life. And sitting with her that day, I realized that if I could just even breathe her air, even momentarily over the course of the 4 years, I would be a better woman for it. And just really grateful for that opportunity to sit down with her that day. And additionally, I had, the opportunity to, be, coached by, I think, three of the most incredible women in the business. But beyond that, to echo the sentiments, it's way more than just about the sport. It's about understanding how to operate in this world with, grace and elegance, and, what it means to, work hard and to sacrifice and to put others first, and to serve, and I learned all of that here, and just couldn't be more grateful for the opportunities that University of Iowa has given me as a student, as an athlete.
We're going to, in the last 10 minutes or so, just go down the line here right now and tell us, if you haven't already, what was maybe your favorite, if you've already said it, your second favorite memory at the University of Iowa. What was the most exciting thing that happened to you in your career? By the way, I remember Fred hitting those 2 home runs, and that was when the baseball field, the left field wall, if you hit it over the left field wall, it was on Melrose Avenue there, right? So, and that was the field, the stadium was small, but I'll tell you what, when he hit it out, it was gone. So anyway, congratulations. We'll start with Dan Bachman, and we're just gonna, here you go, I'll give you mine. We'll just go down the line and tell us what your favorite. Now, I want to remind everybody they're going to be signing autographs over here. When they're done, they're going to be honored tonight with the reception right here at the Hyatt Hotel. So these people are going to get a lot of adulation this weekend, and they all deserve it.
I've already kind of shared a couple of my best experiences here, but I think when I finished my career, I was ready to be done. And both of my coaches, Tom Dunn and Mike Burns, talked me into judging, and did not want to do it, but I finally agreed to do it, and I got into judging. And since then, for the last 32 years, I've judged all levels of gymnastics, from the little kids, like 5, 6 years old, all the way up to the Olympic level. So I've had incredible experiences. And just to stay in the sport, stay connected to the people, the relationships, it's priceless. So very thankful.
Quinn, for you, now I want you just to switch a little bit. Tell us what was your favorite, your favorite.
Okay, so since this is FRYfest, I want to talk about the experience I had playing for Coach Fry. He was an extremely great motivator. He was a psychology major. You know, he used to, before each game, he would have the whole team get on our knee, turn off the lights, and he would talk about visualization. And I know everybody in this panel can, it would resonate with them. He would talk about seeing yourself make that game-winning touchdown, the sack that turns the game, kicking the game-winning field goal, all of these visualization techniques. And I can't tell you how many times things would happen exactly how I visualized it when we were on one knee and those lights were out, and then we would get in the game. Another thing was being able to get the tutoring from, if you look at that bus over there and you look at all of those coaches, every single one of those coaches have gone on to have amazing careers, not just at the University of Iowa, but at other places. And the lineage that Coach Fry provided the world with. And, also, I had the opportunity to go to his funeral. And Coach Ferentz had everyone stand up whose lives that Hayden Fry had touched. And it was just amazing, and it was very emotional to see these generations of men stand up. And everyone had tears in their eyes. And every one of them, I'm sure if you asked them, had stories about Coach Fry and what an amazing teacher, mentor, and father figure he was. And that's exactly how I felt about him. And my other most amazing experience was getting my degree from the University of Iowa. I wasn't that great of a student in high school, and I got to be honest, I wasn't that great of a student at Iowa either. And it's funny because every now and then when I walk into my office at home, I'll take a look at my diploma and I'll think to myself, how did that happen? And I'm just extremely grateful and thankful to have been an Iowa Hawkeye and to presently be an Iowa Hawkeye. And like you said, Hawkeye for life. So that's how I feel about it.
I can definitely, I can sympathize with you on, I don't know how that happened with the degrees because I look that same way. So go ahead, Carrie.
So I played in the 80s, and I have very fond memories of traveling to Florida and to California and being lucky enough to be on a talented team to win. So in the 80s now, with the U.S. Gold Team being represented by many, many Big Ten players and just the unbelievable, where the Big Ten volleyball ranks now, going back to 1980s, we weren't quite perhaps on the map as much then. We had the talent, so to go to California or Florida and beat those teams, it was fun, fun, fun. And I would say another fond memory I have off the court was Bill Stringer. Bill Stringer was a sports psychologist here, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man, and very fond of the easy time that he gave to me. And you can't mention the Stringers without mentioning C. Vivian Stringer, who was also very generous at a time of loss in her family to help me with my thesis. So lots and lots of fond memories coming on and off the court at Iowa.
Sitting there, as y'all are speaking over there, trying to think about my fondest memories, it's hard to just put it in one. And so I guess you could say my fondest memory is just putting on the black and gold, standing in the middle of the pitching circle and having that ball in my hand and knowing that my team and this wonderful Hawkeye community is there to support us. And so it's just hard to break it down to one fondest memory. So to keep it plain and simple, that's my fondest memory, is just being able to wear it and just proud to be a part of this.
That's right, and I'm sure these 10 right here have the same feeling that I do, and maybe many of you. I cannot imagine, and I truly feel this way, standing up and clapping for anybody else's fight song in the world except Iowa's, and that's just the way it is. Go ahead, Kristen.
Definitely game day. There is nothing like a home game in Hawkeye country. As a sport that actually isn't even played in Iowa, we would break NCAA or attendance records regularly, which is just insane. And I think it just speaks to the Hawkeye community, the fans. We literally have the best fans in the country. There's no doubt about it. And I think for me, just being able to get out there, wear my jersey, like Christy said, like just be able to represent this university that I was just so proud to be a part of, and this community that I was so proud to be a part of, was just the highlight of my career. There's no doubt.
I guess one of the things I would like to say is that I'm very proud of the fact that I had two daughters that went to the University of Iowa and were athletes and letter winners. And they both graduated here, one with a law degree and another one with a master's degree in education. My two sons decided to go to Kansas, though. They were good athletes as well. My older son broke Jim Ryan's 800 record at University of Kansas. That's how good he was. He didn't want to come to Iowa. I sat down with him, and my wife and I said, "Why did you want to come to Iowa?" He said, "Dad, they got this, they got that. It's very good." He said, "But one problem." I said, "What's that?" "You and Mama's here, so I got to get away." So he went to Kansas. We lost him here. But one of the things that I'm very proud of and remember greatly is the support I received from Central Administration and all our coaches. I work with every athletic director from Bump, from Bob Bowlesby, and now Gary Barta, and hiring some fantastic coaches. And I remember when we hired Fran McCaffrey, going out to Albany to pick he and his family up, and Fran and I had a very good conversation in the flight back. And he still remembers those conversations. We talked about the culture here at the university we wanted to have and how we built that culture and doing things the right way. And our coaches believed in that, and I'm very proud of that. Christine Grant came to me and said, "Fred, we've got a coach here we got to have to turn our basketball program around." And that was Vivian Stringer. And so Christine and I spent a great deal of time with Vivian to get her to commit to come here to Iowa to be a coach. We had some outstanding coaches and still do, and that's because we have the right culture. So I'm very proud of that.
I would say Roy also wrote a book, and he also shared his memories about Iowa with you guys, and that I would say one of his final memories was playing North Carolina in Tar Heels. And this game is on CBS, and I mean, they playing in a dog-out fight, and Ed goes up, get fouled. And I'm noticing Ed backing up. He just steady backing up away from the play, trying to get away from it because he don't want the refs to tell him to get up on that line. And the play before that, Roy had got fouled, but you know it's physical. Nobody's calling the game. So he said it was him, and that place was going to static, yelling, "No, it wasn't." And he like it was me, and they let him shoot them free throws. And I still today don't know how they made it out of North Carolina with doing that, but that you guys end up winning that game, and I tell you, there were a lot of hot Tar Heel fans around the nation. And if every time you think you bring up Roy, they end up bringing that game up. You know he cheated, but you know that you guys cheated about that game. That was one of his finest memories, and for me, I would say coming here and Iowa putting the press on, and this place is so loud. The ref called travel or foul, and nobody heard a thing, and the play is steady going on, and they steady trying to stop it because they didn't call something. And because this place will get so loud, and that was one of my final memories with my parents and whatnot. And I think that his would be his son putting on that yellow and gold. That just this black and gold was his thing of his son wearing that jersey. I would leave it at that.
That's why it's great to be a Hawkeye. Diane? Yeah,
my first, I remember the first time I got when I first got here and they gave us the uniform, I was so excited. And we had the home cross country meet. And I remember I ran so fast the first maybe 800. Luckily, it was only 3Ks because I was just that excited to compete. But I also didn't realize how hard it was going to be to compete for the University of Iowa, being part of the Big Ten. And my first year here, I didn't really listen to my coach that much, and I wasn't doing well either. And I realized I only had one more year before I graduated, and I was like, I have to actually just slow down and listen to the people that care about me. And I remember once I started listening to my coach, and I remember winning my first Big Ten title, and that was probably one of my favorites and moments. And also realizing that friend Mims wanted me to succeed, so I started thinking these people actually care about me, and they're here for me and to help me grow as a person. And I do feel like being here for 2 years prepared me for the life that I actually have now, and hopefully that the career that I'm gonna keep having, even not just running, with other parts of my life.
Brad?
Well, no secret. I was part of the best team that Gable has ever coached. It's debatable, but the 1986 team in Carver Hawkeye Arena, that memory will stay with me forever. That's the year I won my won my national championship. We had 5 national champions out of 10. We put 6 in the finals, but that was one of Dan Gable's greatest teams, and I'm very proud and excited about that. And another fond memory is game day. Believe me, athletes always say, I'm focused, I didn't see the crowd. They all say that, but believe me, we're very aware of what's going on in the crowd. We run out there, we see things, or maybe it was just me. I noticed everything running out there. And running out of the tunnel, here comes the Hawks, and you run out of that tunnel, your heart's going 100 miles an hour. You actually break a sweat. It was phenomenal, and it was great.
Well, I was a Southwest Iowa farm boy. There'd been no history of any athletes in my family. My father was a World War II veteran with an 8th grade education. Smart guy, but never got to go to school. And so when I started getting recruited around the country, I said, first of all, I wanted to go to Iowa because I wanted to be able to play for my mom and dad and have them see me every Saturday. And that meant so much to me. And then my brother came after me, and he's coming in tonight for the ceremony. But to play in front of your parents every week, it was just, well, something like you said, I'll never forget. So.
Well, one last time, stand up when I say your name. Our 2021 Hall of Fame class: Dan Bachman, men's gymnastics; Kari Hamel, volleyball; Kristi Hanks, softball; representing Frank, Kinney, Holbrook, Quinn Early. That's in football. Kristen Holmes, field hockey. Roy Marble Jr., men's basketball, represented by his brother, Jeron. Fred Mims, baseball and administration. Diane Nukuri, track and field cross country. Brad Penrith, Iowa wrestling. And Ed Podolak, broadcasting and Iowa football. Your Hall of Fame class 2021 for the Hawkeyes. Thank you very much, and we're honored to have you here.